Okay, next session, the shift to streaming. Session is going to focus on the biggest transformation in the way consumers access content. So Connected TV has ushered a significant shift from traditional television to streaming platforms, transforming how audiences consume content, but also how advertisers reach them. This panel will explore the driving forces behind the migration to streaming, examining key trends, audience behaviors, and the implications for advertisers. Industry leaders will discuss the opportunities and challenges in this evolving landscape, and attendees will learn how to leverage this shift to streaming to create a more personalised and effective campaign that engages today's viewers. So I'm very pleased to welcome to the panel the moderator of this session, Alex Ong, who is the Director of Business Development at Magnite. Welcome, Alex. I will hand over to you to introduce your esteemed panel.
Great. Thanks so much, Ryan. Good afternoon and welcome to today's second session, the shift into streaming. As mentioned, I'm Alex Ong. I lead business development for Magnite across their EMEA business. Very excited to go through this panel today. We've got some really expert opinions and expert people on. I will get them to introduce themselves from Stephanie to Karsten and finally Seth. Oh, I think we might still be waiting for them to come on.
I think sometimes guiding people through the Zoom, backstage Zoom can be a challenge. So we'll just give them a couple of minutes as they come onto screen now. Hopefully Amy and team will be able to find them.
Great.
Yeah, it's Sebastian now.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello, good afternoon.
I think we're just waiting for Karsten. Oh, there we are. Great.
Hello, everyone.
Perfect. We got everyone on now. Yes, so if we can kick it off with some intros, name and where you guys work and kind of a little bit about your businesses, that would be fantastic. Stephanie, let's start off with you.
Sure. Thanks for having me. Thanks, Alex, for introducing us. So hi, I'm Stephanie Brake. I'm glad I'm here, and I actually made the video work, so that's a highlight. I work at Audience Express. I head up the UK sales team, and Audience Express, for those of you who don't know, is part of Freewell of Comcast, and we are essentially the media sales arm, selling our CTV and video, premium video offering into agencies and brands.
Great. Seth?
Hi, I'm Sebastian Seb, working for RTL Airlines in our partnership development team, mainly focusing on expanding the international RTL Airlines portfolio with broadcasters, streamers to support them in incremental ad revenues.
Finally, Karsten.
Yes, hello from Berlin, Germany. My name is Karsten Müller. I'm leading media sales for Google's DSP, Display Video 360 in Central Europe. In my day-to-day job, I work with many major advertisers and agencies who buy media on our platform. And let me say that as an intro, is the perfect timing from my point of view to discuss this with all of you, as I think we reached a tipping point for CTV advertising. I see huge opportunities for advertisers and businesses alike in the ecosystem. So thank you very much for having the opportunity to be on this panel with you.
Great. So kicking it all off, what do you think are the primary factors driving the migration from traditional TV to streaming platforms? And how are these influencing the audience behavior and content consumption patterns? I think all of you would have great opinions on this, but let's kick it off with you, Seb.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I would like to have a broader answer to that, because we're always differentiating between the streaming world and the broadcaster world. I think looking on to what broadcasters do at the moment is also becoming streamers. And I think that is what we need to also keep in mind, that there's not this world and that world. With all the investments we are seeing currently from broadcasters investing heavily in BVOD platforms, contents, and also what we see, and that's an interesting fact, is the partnerships that big streamers are currently doing with with broadcasters. Like yesterday, we just heard the announcement of Pluto TV partnering with MCs in France, which I think shows the massive trend. We could somehow call it consolidation, or the real merge of the broadcasting world and the streaming world.
Cool. What about you, Stephanie?
Yeah, I think what Sepp just described on the broadcaster world moving into streaming describes very well what's happening in terms of content. There's a lot more content available on different streaming platforms, whether it's on their own platforms or on pure new streaming platforms. Thinking back a few years ago, another factor was probably the move away from paid TV into something that was free, advertising supported. So that there's multiple factors. I don't think we can just name one primary factor, but a lot of factors. And then one thing that we don't necessarily mention often enough, but also OEMs had a lot to do with how the streaming experience itself has evolved and has gotten better. So I think also some of the younger audiences who were very much accustomed to a mobile phone and app-based usage have easily gone over to the massive screen that looks a bit like a phone. So that app usage has been almost seamless for them. So there's all these developments almost simultaneously that allow more and more streamers to come onto these platforms, and it's a huge opportunity for advertisers to tap into.
Cool. And then something you wanted to add to that, Carsten?
Certainly. I would see three major factors driving the trend to streaming. And the first I would like to highlight is, I would call that emancipation of the viewer. So I decide when I want to watch, whereas in the past, a series started at 8 p.m. sharp for everyone, right? And I decide what to watch. So this is a new, very personal decision that viewers can take. And secondly, and Steph elaborated on that already, but I want to highlight it again here because it's so important. It's the choice of content is here like never before. So we see an increasing amount of incredible content on a lot of different platforms, locally and globally. For example, broadcaster offerings like Join here in Germany, next to global players like Disney+, Netflix, or YouTube, of course. And this trend is certainly supported by the fact that all major platforms have launched or are preparing their launch of ad-supported subscriptions. And the third fact to name here, a lot of this incredible content is multi-device and multi-format today. And that definitely pushes streaming. So what I mean by that, the series that I started to watch yesterday evening on the big screen, I'm able to continue to watch on the train, on my mobile the next day. And more users are watching short form content. Creators and publishers are building on that. And that's a great example how the ecosystem is adapting to this changing audience behavior. This is definitely the new normal for younger audiences, but it's increasingly true for older generations as well, myself included.
Yeah, I definitely see it on our end as well. Just the different distributions that broadcasters are really looking at enhancing, whether it's via fast channel adoption or enhancing their BVOD services. It's a really interesting time, and definitely the multi-device cross-channel viewership is something that I think that is being embraced by pretty much all generations. But coming back to you again, Carsten, how do you think advertisers can effectively adapt their strategies to engage audiences who are increasingly obviously turning to these streaming platforms that we just discussed? And what unique opportunities does this shift really represent?
Yeah, I mean, to understand the new opportunities, we have to bear in mind where advertising actually comes from. Yeah, we come from a world where advertisers targeted one big message to a mass audience, not really addressable, not really measurable. But luckily, most of the environments that viewers spend time with these days are digital and can be addressed programmatically. And that leads to unique opportunities for media campaigns. Yeah, campaigns can be planned more meaningfully. Audiences become more addressable, measurable. And in this new world, there's frequency optimization. So advertisers can reduce overexposure. They get more reach for the same media invest. So there's a clear opportunity for smarter and more effective campaigns, if you want to put it like that. To the second point of the question, my advice for advertisers, ask yourself, does your budget allocation really reflect where you find your audiences today and where you will find them in the future? And when tapping into these new opportunities, let technology help you. It's complicated, yeah? Let technology help you, and that can be a central buying platform like DV360.
Great. Anything, Seb or Stephanie, you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I can definitely add to that. I think what we've been talking over the last years in any CTV conferences is definitely advertisers having the chance to optimize their reach, and not just a chance, but actually almost an obligation, because a lot of advertisers realize that they're not reaching all of their audiences just through linear TV, but very much had to extend onto CTV campaigns. And that's why CTV in a media plan has earned its line itself. And outside of reach, I think there's also something called effective reach, which is essentially optimizing the frequencies. You might have a light TV viewer who you have reached once on a linear TV campaign, but the message has not hit yet. So you need to reach them again and maybe 4 more times on a streaming platform. And that's something that more of our advertisers and agency partners have understood, that it is an absolute essential part of a media planning, of a video or TV planning. And as Carsten said, the targeting options are much more granular, and the fact that a lot of these streamers were initially already available in a programmatic space, which to programmatic buying options was absolutely essential as well.
Great. And then, Seb, what challenges, obviously we've spoken about what the advice would be for the advertisers, but what challenges do you think advertisers are facing creating a personalized and effective campaign on CTV? And how can they really overcome these obstacles to reach targeted viewers? So outside of what Stephanie just said about, looking at the effective reach, what other tools do you think that they should be utilizing?
I mean, less than talking about tools and features, and I think what Carsten and Stephanie said is like really the whole complex and comprehensive picture of what the CTV streaming world gives us, like addressability, target audiences, KPIs, or all what we are talking on our daily businesses here for all the companies we work with. But on the other hand, when we talk to the advertisers, sometimes it feels that they're overwhelmed with the complexity, with all the terms we're using, with all these new platforms, features, things that are coming up. And that is the biggest challenge they have, that they're looking for consultation, support in guiding them the way through not only all the tech pieces, but there's another layer because it gets more international, and then in Europe within that fragmented market. So they have all these opportunities, they have different countries, and what they need is some sort of, I've said consolidation before, but we could also call it standardization platforms in which they can trust. And that is, I think, very important to have, and which they can trust what they buy and get what they pay for. And I think we will see more and more players being on or staying on the pitch that exactly do that, providing the trust and visibility and transparency to advertisers. And with that, I think advertisers need to get more bold and pushy towards the tech market and to all of us here on that panel to create that easiness and simplicity.
Yeah, agree. Anything, Carsten or Stephanie, you wanted to add to that? No. All right. Well, obviously, we've talked about the challenges, and obviously, we all agree that there needs to be some type of standardization for the advertisers, because every market is very different. We have the fragmentation as just mentioned. But how do we see this evolution of audience measurement and data analytics in CTV impacting the way advertisers plan and optimize those campaigns Steph?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think we've seen, and having worked at Audience Express, I've seen the first media plans being very, oh, what is CTV? Or let's just try it out. Let's have a run-off network campaign, and we'll look at VTR because that's the thing that we're most used to from a digital video campaign, to now having multiple choices of measurement. It's not a one fits all. I think something that's also very visible in the US, for example, is there are different types of measurements, and it's not just one single measurement. There are attribution studies, brand lift studies that we can now leverage in the CTV environment. There is attention metrics that we are now capable to measure in a CTV environment. And depending on the client's needs and objectives, one might fit better than the other. We've seen, going back to the point I mentioned earlier, it's gone from a very branding approach. So we would talk to advertisers who were used to TV campaigns, and therefore we thought we could convert into a CTV by now also talking to brands that are more performance-based, clients who would go and buy from DRTV teams. We've had a campaign last year for a charity who ran on CTV in parallel to a linear campaign, and it turned out that their CPAs, or their cost per acquisition of donations, was actually 15% better than the linear TV campaign. So I think there has been a lot of movement, and CTV is now also used for more performance-based campaigns. If you look at a purchase funnel or the user funnel, CTV can be applied in all the different stages of the funnel, and I think that's really interesting, and definitely an area where we will see more coming with the different technologies coming up, machine learning being an essential element in that. It's a very interesting space.
And Carsten, I feel like you might have more to add around that, especially, the DV360 world, seeing kind of all of it from an omni-channel perspective and kind of that shift of spend as well.
Yeah. So the aspiration, I guess, is clear to everyone here, right? We want to have a common standard, ideally, or for all platforms, one common database maybe. And today we're clearly missing this holistic picture, and we're missing that for quite some time. So the aspiration is clear. There are point solutions available today. You asked for some points that are already there, talking about DV360 maybe. There are in-platform solutions, right? There's unique reach, including reach duplication, deduplication. Other bodies have tried their early approaches successfully, like the World Federation of Advertisers approach, a multimodal standardized approach that yielded first positive results in the UK and the US. So we will see more on that front as well. Then you have smart meter approaches, single source panels, and so on. But it's not that common standard that we all wish for. So you would ask, why? What's the reason for that common standard not being there yet? Just to name two, maybe. So it's pretty cost intense, as we noticed, and also looking at CTV now. The main topic of our discussion here, CTV is still a pretty young, very, very fast growing device or ad category, but again, it's still pretty young. So solutions to develop solutions in such a complex, fragmented world, such a complex, fragmented ecosystem, it just takes time. I think we're on a good way. I'm sure that we'll, looking forward, we'll have a combination of different approaches, like multimodal panel-based approaches in combination with data clean rooms where you can bring your first-party data combined with survey data, something like that. But it will take time. But it will get better since it's all digital and everybody wants that. So I'm positive about that.
Yeah, agreed. I think it's, to both of your points, it's never going to be a one size fits all. We're just in such a fragmented industry as a whole, and especially across CTV, where we've got different players from broadcasters to OEMs, that it will be challenging, and it will be kind of, you would have to look at it per partner, so to speak. Is there anything you wanted to kind of a point of view of that from Seb? I think obviously we know what advertisers want, and we want to be able to drive that for them. But do you see that merriment between the broadcasters and the advertisers coming together quite often, or is it a little bit miscommunicated at times?
No, I mean, I agree to what Carsten and Steffi said. I think one important point, again, I think that was mentioned again, is the need for advertisers to have more prepackaged audience buys segments that fit to the target audience that they want to reach. And again, there, I think it's a very important challenge and task for all of us to get more simple and more accessible to advertisers.
We do have one audience question. They wanted to know what advertisers, or I guess category of advertisers, are leading the way in terms of expert and effective use of CTV along with traditional TV or media. Stephanie or Carsten or Seb, would you like to take this?
Maybe I start with that one. I would say it's not the typical top of the funnel awareness advertisers, but rather the ones that are somewhere in the middle. So it's also not the purely performance oriented advertisers, because they're from their nature, from all their experience, and even their teams doing digital advertising, too far away from the big screen still. Yeah, they started to move there. I guess everyone is moving into that direction and playing the full funnel. But as I see it, it's the advertisers who typically in the past targeted the mid of the funnel that were keen to reach, to identify leads. There is somewhere in between a pure awareness focused advertiser and the pure performance-based advertiser. So they're moving in basically all the directions and trying to connect all the funnel steps. And they leverage all the technology that is there today. So not just using a DSP, also using their ad server, also using their web analytics tool and connecting all those data that is there.
I can add to that. I think even though, like I said earlier, we would typically approach AB teams who would be used to TV buying and convince them with the digital advantages of a CTV campaign. So we would go after branding campaigns or advertisers that were more branding focused. But in the end, I think it's those advertisers who were willing to test something new, who would by default have a little innovation budget, and who were willing to take that step and try something new, and who were not taking the status quo for a given. And that's the kind of clients that we saw coming on first. I couldn't say it's a certain industry, or it was across the industry, a little bit here, a little bit there. It wasn't, to begin with, wasn't big budgets that we would see. It was just test budgets, and then, oh, actually, that's interesting. What can we do next time? So it's those kind of clients that were open to innovation that we saw coming on first.
I would actually, I mean, we are targeting TV advertisers, like also Steffi. I mean, that's, I think, what we are all after, because this is where still the big budgets are. And of course, this is a big target audience for us in terms of advertisers. And they would love to do more and spend more money on CTV. But what we see many times, especially in Europe, when they compare the opportunities in terms of scale and reach to CTV, it's sometimes disappointing to be used to the large scale and volumes they can achieve through traditional TV. And I think this also shows, and that's what Carsten mentioned, it's still very early. And I think the scale in Europe and the volumes in Europe is one key aspect where we still hopefully see a lot of increase in that area. And also there's not too much options in terms of big CTV inventory, CTV brands that really can make that scale. In the end, it goes down to 5 global players and then local BVOD players.
Yeah, so definitely still seeing some of those shifts from linear into CTV. But I think, I think what's surprising is we haven't really mentioned that SME group. While they're not, the huge budgets, they are the ones that, as Stephanie mentioned, are the ones that are, small, investing, innovating, testing, and they're the ones that come up with those great case studies, isn't it? That say like, this is how amazing it is, which kind of, I think, will shift that conversation at times. But as we're coming to an end, it would not be a panel without we talking about the future. So what future trends should these advertisers look out for? And how can they prepare to leverage these developments for better campaign outcomes? Obviously, this is one for all of you to answer to. So Stephanie, take it away for us.
Future trends, it's nothing new, but I think in the CTV world where we're talking about not having cookies, the contextual targeting element is going to become even more important. And in our prep panel, we talked about AI, and we don't really know what AI is going to be in the next 2 years, but perhaps AI will help us in that targeting element to have smarter capabilities in the contextual world specifically. So I think that's an area advertisers should look out for and keep their ears picked.
Sebastian?
Yeah, I think I've mentioned a lot of consolidation. Maybe I go with consolidation first, but in the meaning of that there will be solutions and platforms which allow the direct access to the inventories, meaning that there will be controlled buying platforms that are controlled by the inventory owners, either the big global streamers like Netflix or Roku or these ones, but also the broadcasters will somehow align on solutions that let advertisers tap into controlled and premium environments where they have the trusted media and KPIs they need.
And finally, what do you think, Carsten?
Yeah, I'd like to get a bit more bold and positive here, actually. So, I mean, it's early days. We already said that, yeah. We'll see an explosion of ad reach on the CTV. That's for sure. It's early stage, ad-supported tiers of streamers. They only started in Europe. Yeah, the reach is going to be much bigger in the future. So CTV will be the most important screen for video ads in the future. And this will come with a lot more opportunities for advertisers. And to manage the complexity that was also discussed today, I'm absolutely confident that AI will play a major role, like in many other areas of our day-to-day lives, right? The ads business is just not an exception to what we see around us. AI is already powering many of the key features of our buying technologies today. And there's so much more in the making that we even can't think of. So today there's frequency management, there's AI powered, there's advanced custom bidding models. There's AI supporting in the field of content creation. Yeah, there are examples where AI powers video creation. And of course, AI helps to make workflows more efficient. You can already, as we speak, just put a description of your audience briefing into a platform, and it identifies reasonable and ideal audience targetings. So AI is here. AI will be much bigger, and it's going to be a great future in digital marketing.
Great. Well, thank you so much. It was a really great conversation that we got to have today. I hope everyone on the panel enjoyed that. I hope you did, Ryan.
Yes, it was great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Alex, and thanks so much to the panel for sharing so much insight on this topic. It's evident that the landscape is changing so quickly, and we've got to stay agile and keep with the changing shift of viewing habits for users and also the distribution model. So thank you, Alex, for navigating us through that.